Because you knew he was going to do that. You knew he was going to do that.
I did not know he was going to do that. No, I didn't.
No, I
know you'll know where we were when.
Hello and welcome to Where We Were When, a podcast where we look back at the most memorable movie-going experiences of our youth and eat candy. I'm your host, Heidi Gardner, and I'm joined as always by my brother, Justin Gardner. Oh my God, I can see your spooky eyes, Justin. Are you scared or are you about to be scary?
I mean, both. I feel like I'm in the Halloween mood. The background's changed. The lighting's a little moody tonight.
Yes. Yes.
I've got my trick or treat Sam t-shirt.
That's sick. I love that.
Pretty fucking sick. Yeah. I don't know what this language is. I have no idea. But
trick
it's
or
cool.
treat Sam.
I'm sure it says trick or treat. Yeah. And I'm just like, I'm excited because Halloween was always really a big deal for us. And we both love scary movies.
Yes. You know, I just said something to a friend recently where it's like, I feel like I've always, like you just said, always loved scary movies. We've always loved scary movies. But because I don't identify my personality as horror fan, I've never felt like I could really like own that or something. But like at a certain point, just recently, I'm like, no, like I love scary movie. Like I don't have to like dress like in all horror all the time to be like, yeah, no, I know my shit about scary movies. Like, so I'm embracing it. I'm owning it. And this podcast, in the month of October, we're doing a couple scary movies. We're owning our horror.
We got to own the horror. I mean, what else are you going to do during October? I watch horror movies all year.
Yes.
I love horror movies. Any kind of horror movie. And we're going to be doing a show coming up pretty soon, which is going to be tackling a little bit of a different horror genre. But tonight, we're not going to talk about movies as much per se as we're going to talk about the villains, the baddies,
the scaries,
the baddies, the like scaries, the creepies,
scariest monsters in the world, like ever.
Yeah.
The ones that when you see, like, you know, we take it way back on this show. Like when you first see these in your childhood, you're like, and that's the scariest thing I've ever seen. Like nothing is worse than that. Is horror. That is a nightmare.
It fucks you up. It seriously fucks you up. Like it's one of those like, because there is the thing about horror is that it really kind of like taps into that lizard brain thing that I think everybody has, right?
Yeah.
That's why people like it. It's like, it gives you sort of that little like endorphin serotonin rush, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so you feel something, right?
Yeah.
And it feels real, you know?
Yeah.
And when you're a little kid, you don't really know how to process that because that really sort of like just gives you a little bing, you know, and you're like, wait a second. Like that, it's that same sort of feeling that you get when you like, you know, peer down into the basement and it's dark, you know, and and there's something like innately like, you don't want to go down there. That's not a place you want to be.
You really don't want to go down to our Mammo and Bampo's basement. Like we had like, they had a basement, you guys, with like a canning cellar in it. Like, I mean, like this thing like went deeper and went farther back than like you can even imagine. I can tell you the story.
I'm going to set it. No, I just want to walk them through. Let me just walk them through. Okay.
Yes.
You walk down the steps, which are pieces of wood that have been bolted together. Okay. So it's not just like a step. It's like sandwiched wood, right? So it doesn't look normal right off the bat. And then right at the bottom of the steps is the, 80-year-old boiler right? That provided the heat, right? Which is always gurgling and fucking spitting and hissing, right? So there's always some sort of crazy fucking sound down there.
Can I say
Okay.
one thing about the steps too?
Yeah.
Like Justin said before we go further into the creepiness. Like Justin said, the steps are bolted down, just pieces of wood. So there's also those like there's space. There's negative space between the steps. So that's people under the stairs shit. I mean, that's a hand can definitely come out and grab your ankle or a knife and cut your Achilles. I just have to say that they weren't like a solid chunk step. There was negative space.
No. Yeah, there was it was like wood and a spacer and then wood and then a spacer. So they were always like, yeah, you could literally fit a hand up through there.
For sure.
So you walk down, you hang a quick hard left, okay? The creepiest fucking single stall toilet in the basement that was always covered in spider webs was filthy, right? But that was the one that was down in the basement that our grandfather would use basically as just a urinal, right?
Yeah,
but it wasn't.
Would use it.
Here's the thing. Sometimes if you really had to go, that was the only other toilet in the house. You would have to go downstairs.
Have you gone in? I never have.
Oh yeah, I did because I mean I have the equipment to like just pop a number one, right? So like I don't have to like sit on that thing.
That was not a little girl's dream bathroom.
No. So you keep on going back. You walk down the steps. You hang a left. There's this little weird little single stall toilet. You keep on walking back. There's a fruit cellar, right? Which is just there's this little room, which is this fruit cellar, and then you take another left, and there is a freezer that with one of those doors that Now that I'm thinking about it, it is the perfect serial killer setup basement.
Beyond.
Legit.
Yes.
Legit.
Yes.
I mean, because that is one of those, if the door closes and the plunger, like you're in there. You're stuck.
Done.
Right? If you walk down the stairs and you keep going forward, to the right is this creepy lit from just one single light workbench that is again another just like wood workbench with all these little like drawers and things, filthy, right? Now because our grandfather used to work on cars and whatnot, it was it was that way, but all these nails and implements of just like torture, right?
Cabinets of curiosity drawers and also very serial killer. Like I just watched the scary movie The Stepfather. He had those workbenches in his basement. Like those are scary in basements.
Yeah, absolutely. So and then a little bit further there was the coal cellar, right? Where because back in the day, like this is where they would like scoop the coal in and it would get, and in that place, that is where our grandfather hung all of the axes and chains and shit that looked literally like you were walking in. I mean, it's just it looking back at it, like, I mean, it's insane that we ever went down there at all.
Yeah. I mean, it was worst case scenario going down there. I remember one time for me, Mama was at work, you were somewhere else, and I kind of was like, I think Bampo left. It was the first time I thought I had been left home alone. And I called Mamo at the wash house. That was the laundromat they owned. And she was like, no, Bampo's there. He wouldn't have left you. And I like could not find him. And I even went down to the basement. I didn't want to go. And like, I looked around where the workbench was and like maybe peered a little bit where the bathroom was, but I didn't turn the corner. And he was like back in a cellar, like, but I wasn't about to go back there it would have been better to just be alone than go down there. It was scary.
Yeah, it was definitely not it was not for children. It was a PG-13 affair walking down those steps for sure.
And also what added a scary element, which I will say this like house was like Justin and our favorite. There was also a above ground pool. I mean, it was a very fun, safe space for us. But um at Mammo and Bampo's also at the time, remember Unsolved Mysteries was like really big at that time. And they
Yeah.
loved Unsolved Mysteries. They watched it late at night. And like it felt like the house kind of feels exposed where it is. And it always felt like, I'm sure everyone feels this, but it always felt like the unsolved mystery murderer was on their porch or in the basement. Like, I always thought that's how we were going to go down there. Like,
Dun 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 dun. Have you seen the remake on
yeah,
Netflix?
very good.
The music is still fucking scary. Like
Terrifying.
literally like that, like I was watching it and I don't get spooked, but I'm just like, God damn, this is freaking me
Yeah.
out. This soundtrack is still and it's like, and especially when it goes in sort of like the moans, like
Yes.
you know, and it's like, fuck. I mean, that's just, it's a classic theme. It's a classic theme.
I will say before we get into these like horror villains, for me, like Unsolved Mysteries was the first like scary movie for me, or like scary,
Totally.
like for sure. That was my introduction, and I don't think Mammo and Bampo knew what they were doing, but that was definitely when horror made it into my life. I mean, it's kind of perfect that it's October, so obviously we're going to talk about scary things. But also, it's the month of candy. We got to get up to our candy tonight. Trick or treat.
Trick or treat. And I've got a
Oh,
little.
actually, I just want to do the candy that I sent you. I want to make sure that we're not doing Butterfingers.
This, right?
Okay.
No,
We're off the
come on.
Butterfingers thing, or
I mean, yeah, I mean,
okay, so
it's
we're
not in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, tonight, we're gonna do what I sent for sure.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Ooh. So I've got some gummy bears.
Gummy bears.
I got Fantastic Mix.
Okay.
I've got Happy Cherries.
Ooh.
And I've got the classic gummy bears. Should I get into the classic?
Get into the classics.
I'm gonna get into the classic.
And you know,
what is this? Did you?
Justin, don't eat that. That could have a razor in it.
What is this? It's an
I didn't put those
eyeball.
in there, Justin. Those are toxic.
Well, they were in here. I don't know how they got in here. But no. I may have put them in there. But
snuck some in.
This is the Haribo Gold Bears, which is the gold standard, the original since 1922. And just that bouquet, right? I was talking about the bouquet of like Starburst, but there's just something just like nothing else smells like this.
Nothing else smells like this. We smelled Starburst and it smelled like crayons and wax. Gummy bear smells. Oh my God. It's like, it's so good. The thing about gummy bears that's so incredible is before this moment, 20 minutes ago, someone could have asked me like, what's your favorite candy? You know, and maybe I would say, Trolleys, like sour worms or Skittles. I'd say anything depending on the mood. But when you're eating gummy bears, it kind of feels like there's no better candy. Like when you're actually doing it, you could make the case that this is the best one for sure.
Well, I think it's because also like the new gummies, they just kind of like they're people pleasers. All right.
Mm-hmm.
The new gummies are people pleasers. It's a really good type of gummy, but it's very like pliant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these guys are not fucking around, you know? you can't just like bite through it very easily. There's a
Mm-mm.
little bit of a struggle, going on,
For
you
sure.
know?
For sure.
So, I mean, like, I'm trying to get through them right now, and you
Yeah.
really have to chew.
Yep.
And the other ones, I feel like you don't really have to chew it as much. Um, the mix is really good. Now, I am gonna get into these others because
Please
I
do.
do want to get some of these happy cherries
I want to
and this
give a shout
fantastic
out
mix.
to obviously what I think is most people's favorite gummy, which is the white gummy bear, which is pineapple.
Pineapple, absolutely. Now, look at these adorable things, right? Look at
Those
that.
are adorable.
And it's the same thing. It's that same, like, they're very chewy,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Haribo's great.
The che Haribo is great. They
Haribo's
have
really
these,
great.
like, different try the little variations. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
get into the fantastic mix here so we can move on, but
They even have these they have these watermelons slices. They're like Haribo thick watermelon sour slices. They're like,
what is this?
oh,
What
is
is
that a
this
frog
guy?
or a flower?
It's a
Gummy
turtle.
frog? Mmm.
It's a turtle.
That's gonna taste good. I love when they have that white stuff on the bottom. Some sort of kind of
Mmm.
creme gummy.
Little creme.
Yeah,
We've got some
really love that.
dinosaurs, we've got some lizards, we got a chameleon, right?
Ooh, so you got a lizard pack, basically.
Uh,
Pre
yeah, it's the sweet and playful, fantastic mix, and we've got, um, I don't know what this is. This is a race car? I think this is a race car.
I don't
Yeah,
know
that's
what
like a
that's
race car.
doing with the turtle and
Yeah,
race and the lizard.
yeah. So
Hmm.
I'm thank you for
You're
sending me
welcome.
except it eyeball and spider.
I know.
Um,
I'm tried to get
you
you.
scamp, you scamp. Um,
Tried to scamp you. But gummy bears were one of my, I know that I've said it before on the podcast when we talked about probably actually our first episode when we talked about Brywood. I remember Brywood Theaters in Kansas City,
yeah,
right down the road from our Manmos. They had the Care Bears gummy bears, which was like
right.
just very cool because if you loved gummy bears and then Care Bears was aligned with gummy bears at the time. So it was the blue box with the clouds and Care Bears on it. Um,
I
very
feel like I've
cool.
seen that recently. Still,
Yeah, they
because the Care
actually
Bears are still around.
still yeah, they still have it. It's just on the box. It's got the newer version of the Care Bears, which, you know, kudos to those animators, but I like the old school looking Care Bears more.
Kudos. You can
And
say you don't like something.
I wish they could always just keep the same. I wish the My Little Ponies still look the same. I think they were cuter before, but
The My Little Ponies are very different,
yes.
and they have a very different fan base
Yes.
than the OG. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna go on record. Bronies creep me out. I'm sorry, Bronies, but
There's a whole documentary, right?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like it's funny because like somebody tried to like like no it's like it's they're really into it, and I was like okay, I'll watch it, and it made it worse. like I'm like no.
Yeah.
I mean that's fine, but no, this did not
Yeah.
make me more receptive to this brony audience. But hey, God love them. God love them.
God love them. We love everyone on this show
We
except
do.
scary villains. We
But
don't
we
love
love
those,
them.
but we
We
love
love to
them.
hate them.
But we actually
We
do
love to hate
love
them.
them. We do love
Mhm.
them. And we thought that like a fun thing to do would be I would give my top 5 scariest movie villains, monsters. And then Justin, maybe I could get kind of your feedback, like if you're feeling the same way, what you think about you just kind of like go with the
Yeah.
flow. Yeah, and feel
That's the
free
way.
to
That's what we should do. It's
that's
like I
the
want to
way
hear your
out
top
of this
5.
show.
That's yeah. That's how to get
That's
out of the podcast. Like
that's
how
the
are we going to get out of
puzzle.
the podcast? That's the puzzle. There we
We
go.
have to agree on the top 5 scariest. So this could go on for months.
Yeah. Strap in, kids. Who knows how it's going to end? There's a twist ending too, by the way.
There's a twist in it. I'm going to go in reverse because we're doing top 5. I'm going to do my scariest, what I consider the scariest movie villain. I'm going to do them last. Okay. So I'm going to do my.
Yeah. You're going up. You're going up the chain. Of course, you got to do that. You can't start with the scariest.
Yes. So speaking of puzzles and getting out of this podcast.
This is your number 5?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Listen, I'm not questioning it. I'm just a little surprised because I know who you're going to talk about. Puzzle boxes.
Yep.
Go ahead.
We talking Jigsaw, baby.
Hello. Do you want to play a game?
No, you thought. Oh no!
Yeah,
no,
puzzle
no.
box.
Puzzle boxes.
Puzzle room.
Yes.
Puzzle box.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Ooh,
Well, the little hint towards something I think further on, but like Jigsaw.
I love that. Yeah, Jigsaw. Do you remember seeing Saw 1?
Yeah, because it was that was one of those movies that came out of nowhere.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I had just moved to LA. My roommate and I went and saw it one night just because we were like, oh, this scary movie's out. And I have not been at that time that surprised by a scary movie that it wasn't on my radar. It took me way by surprise and legitimately very scared. I was very scared and Saw. I had just never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it was one of those. I mean, it had such a good conceit, right? A single room, right? How are they going to get out of the single room?
Mm-hmm.
2 filmmakers that you'd never heard of, and Carrie Elwes, right? Who's like Princess Bride. It's like you hadn't really seen him in anything since The Princess Bride.
Robin Hood, and here he is in this, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he was doing other other independent films, but just nothing I had seen. And then I'm like, that's, what's his name in
Wesley.
Wesley. Yeah, it's Wesley. Like, what is Wesley doing in a horror movie?
Yeah.
And it was just, and then of course the scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the scene that we all knew was coming, and it's like, it's the whole Chekhov thing. If you see a gun in the first act, it has to be fired in the third, right? So you saw that the movie's called Saw, and you saw that Saw.
Yeah.
And it fucking happened,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that and then just the way that the way that the puppet of Jigsaw looks is so good with those I wish I had. I do
little makeup,
I
little
feel
lipstick.
Like
you want to?
Yeah, I feel like you came to play with your t-shirt, so I'm gonna do some Jigsaw.
Nice. Okay. Yep.
It's not quite the right color, but
you know what? It doesn't matter. It gives people a reason to tune in on YouTube.
And then when from here, it just looks like I've got a lot of blush on. But up close, those are some Jigsaw. Okay, so Jigsaw, the puppet of Jigsaw, is like straight up scary. And then when you see actual Jigsaw the man, like what's that actor's name?
Still scary.
Yeah.
Still scary.
Oh gosh.
Yes. Tobin Bell. Bell. That's what it is.
And his voice.
Okay.
His voice. Oh my God.
Do you remember? Yeah. No, it's that is one of those character actors that you genuinely you're like, yeah, that's perfect casting. I mean, absolutely perfect casting. And a fun fact, Saw 2 was directed by Darren Lynn Bousman, who is a Kansas City native.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm. First one, Lee Winnell and James Wan. And second one, Darren Lynn Bousman. So that's a bit of trivia for you.
KC, we love KC on this show. All things KC. Okay, so that's my number 5, Jigsaw.
It's a great one. It's a
Okay.
great one.
Okay. I'm glad we're in agreement on that one.
Okay.
Okay, my number 4 scary movie villain is, let me see if I can give you a clue and you can guess.
Okay, sure. But make it hard. Make it hard because I think we're pretty aligned. So
Okay.
try and make it hard for me if you can. If you can
Okay.
on the spot, because I'm literally just putting you on the spot.
Yeah. They're a really good dancer.
They're a really good dancer. Wow. Okay.
And that could be debatable, but in my opinion, I think they're a good dancer.
They're a really good dancer. That is a very broad.
I know.
I mean,
They dance as their
I know.
villain.
Oh, they do. Okay,
Mhm.
so clearly not Jason. Clearly not I don't know if I should go down the list because
No,
these might be some of yours.
don't
I
go
won't go
down
down
the
the list.
list.
Leprechaun?
No.
No, okay.
Think slightly less traditional horror. Think of like a scary movie
Mm-hmm.
with multiple villains. This is also a scary movie that won Oscars.
Oh, Buffalo Bill.
Yes.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Like
Tuckin' and dancing.
Tuckin' and dancing and sewing skin. Like he was doing
Yeah.
his thing. But yeah, I love the way he moves. I love that song, Goodbye Horses. But like also one of the scariest voices ever.
Yeah. Was she a big fat girl?
Yeah. Would you fuck me? Would you shut up?
I'd
shut
fuck
up.
me.
I mean,
It puts the lotion in the basket. It does this because it's told to.
yes.
Yeah. I know that's not really the voice, but I mean it's like it is just like this like
Yeah.
and that's another character actor. I do not know that guy's name, but that's another character actor. And then when you see him as like a cop, in like
I
another
know.
movie, the voice is like, well, for me, the voice is like, okay, that's a cop,
Mhm.
but just he created something just really creepy and magical, with
Yeah.
Buffalo Bill and Silence of the Lambs. If
I feel like
people don't know what we're talking about.
I'm turning myself into a full scary person because I feel like he in the movie had on like some sort of, he had like a it might have been like a cross earring or something, but he definitely had an earring.
Yeah.
So I'm putting on a snake.
Okay. Yeah. No,
So
it was. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
there
sure it was a cross earring.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
was something. I don't have a cross, so I'm gonna do that. So I've got the Jigsaw cheeks,
She's got the jigsaw cheeks,
Buffalo Bill earring.
the
Okay.
single earring too. It was a
Yes,
single earring.
It was
right?
single, yes.
And
that's
I gotta say, that's just such like a genius little piece of uh wardrobe, to have the
Mhm.
single earring because something is wrong. If a I'm just gonna just put this out there, and I'm sorry if like you rock single earrings, fellas, but I don't like that is just something where if I see anybody with a single earring or like a really like long pinky
Mhm.
nail, right? I'm like, what has gone on in that person's life that this
Well,
is
I
they
like
got
the
a long
single-
pinky nail or
Well,
they
the
have
long
the single earring.
I like the single earring, and I think also in culture that was like definitely like a way to find your people. Like,
Well, right, but I also there wasn't. I'm not talking about that type of.
you're
dude.
talking about like Bruce Willis when he
Yeah,
was like,
yeah, a little bit.
little
It's like
cross-ear-
it's like
yeah. No, I get that.
I feel like it was a little bit appropriated by the other group, the family,
of a cheesy
right?
type of dude. Yeah.
Of a cheesy dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So just to be clear, I get that. And then I mean, I feel like the pinking, that was Coke, right?
Oh, I got hot on my nose.
I think, but
Yeah.
I'm sure I've seen the combo where it's
Coke
the
and
pinky
vampire.
and the
Yeah.
yes. I'm sure I've
Yeah.
seen that.
Yes.
I'm sure I've seen that.
But Buffalo Bill did it well. And so I thought about this because I was about to say, I was like, well, Hannibal Lecter is one of my favorites for sure. Like, again, so creepy. And
Yeah,
I
you're
mean,
going
I
for the
love
dark
that
horse.
movie. Yeah, it just, every time I watch it, it's just as good. So I was going to say Hannibal Lecter, but then I had to think about it. Like when I was a kid, there was something fun about Hannibal that like, even though he was scary, I could like latch on
Mhm.
to his conversations with Clarice, and it was like intriguing. But Buffalo Bill was just like that. Yeah, that's a dude that kidnaps you. That's a dude that stuffs you in his van and you're down in the well at his house. Like that is a horror show for
Right.
sure.
And the thing about uh why Hannibal Lecter
Mhm.
is that he is, at least you're going to enjoy his company, right?
Yeah.
He's brilliant, right?
Yep.
He's going to cook you a nice dinner, right? And
Yeah.
then he might, slide a knife into like your kidney, right?
Yeah.
Afterwards, but he'll do it quickly, right?
Mhm.
That's not Buffalo Bill's game, right?
No.
He's going to make you apply lotion so that he can skin you, so he
Yeah.
can assemble his female suit, right?
Yeah. He ain't gonna hang
Definitely
out with you. He's too
no.
awkward and filled with too much shame. He's not gonna hang at all.
Well, and these two things, this reminds me of in college I took a course human sexuality, right? And there were two distinct, like there was all sorts of like sort of like sexual deviations, right? But there were two distinct um like sexual uh uh perversions or deviations that really stood out to me. The first was called PK. And PK was when people would hide in like bushes and with a sharp instrument of some sort, okay, and poke when somebody would walk by, usually a woman, right, would poke them in the butt with that
PK.
thing. Yeah, PK. And then they would poke them in the butt and they would run away. That was it. They weren't trying to like actually like stab them or anything. They were just trying to like give them a little jab and then run away and like think it was hilarious or something. And I obviously would turn them on. Then there was something called Saloromania. Saloromania was obtaining women's undergarments and like getting them really dirty, like really like, dirtying them up. And
Uh-huh.
PK was very much like you would find college professors who had this sexual variation. Saloromania was people who barely had any education, right? And I
Uh-huh.
feel like that's kind of like, even though I think we need to give Buffalo Bill a little bit more credit, you know, I always like kind of like had those two in my
Mhm.
head, as like they always stuck out as just really strange,
Yeah.
sexual fetishes, right?
Yeah.
And and so I always kind of aligned those two. Like
Yeah.
it always seemed like Hannibal Lecter would be one of those guys hiding in the bushes that would
For
just want to like,
sure.
you know, poke somebody with
Yes.
something sharp.
Absolutely. And Buffalo Bill is total Salary
I know, yeah, because he's like
Yeah.
he's got a fucking hole in his basement, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
He's a
Yep.
filthy man, when
Yes.
Clarice goes into that house,
I
right?
know the
That is
night
a filthy
vision.
house. The night vision and
Yes.
like the
The
moths and it's just like,
moths.
ooh.
Oh,
You go into Hannibal Lecter's house, this is like the best house you've ever been in, you
yes.
know?
Yeah.
It's refined, it's awesome. So, I
Yeah.
like Buffalo Bill because Buffalo Bill, he really is creepier. He really is more of a like a villain,
Yeah.
definitely. So I
Yeah.
can roll with Buffalo Bill for number 4.
Love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Jigsaw, Buffalo Bill. My number 3 scariest movie villain is, you want another clue, Justin?
Yeah, let's play this game.
Okay.
Would you like to play a game?
I'm gonna follow a little Buffalo Bill suit. And I'm just gonna say skin.
Okay. Skin. Hmm. Um, just skin. Is the skin stretched out?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I'm gonna need a little bit more.
Okay. I don't know if I answered that quite right. I do think it is, but how about skin and stitches?
Yes. Leatherface.
Yes. I I mean, I'll make the I'll make the argument on myself that like Leatherface technically with everything he's got going for him should be number 1. Like his face is skin, cut up skin stitched together of like
Well,
other
that's a mask.
yes, but like
Yeah.
that is his face. Like I
Yeah,
mean
that's
that he's
for all intents
presenting.
and purposes. Yeah.
Um and he okay, so that's scary enough. That face mask is so scary and terrifying. But then also like the ultimate scary thing, he carries around a chainsaw and chases you with a chain saw.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost impossible to fight that. You just have to run.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way to fight a chainsaw. I mean, but please don't give me the argument a gun. Like, let's just talk about other things. If someone listening is like, well, yeah, a gun. No. Um, Also, bet you'd be really scared even shooting a gun at someone with a chainsaw. It's just too overwhelming. It's too
If
shocking.
somebody has a chainsaw, they are like out of their goddamn mind, you
And the
know?
sound is going to freak you out. Like,
Oh, I was
oh my
it's
God.
the thing that what they say, and I don't know if this is some bullshit movie stuff, but people are more afraid of getting maimed and disfigured than dying, right?
Wow.
So I always thought of like the chainsaw, just that it has to be one of the worst way. Like even if like they like you got away, if they kind of just took a chunk out of you, it would just rip through you, like in a way that is just unrepairable. That's not going to heal up. like
Mhm.
like that is going to be an insane wound, that you will have for the rest of your life. But I got to say, of all the movie villains that
Yeah.
will be on this list,
Yep.
Leatherface has the best entrance of any villain in any horror movie, where he
Mhm.
just basically like, you know, that door opens, he pulls that guy inside, and then the door closes, right? He like hits
Uh-huh.
him and like the door closes, shunk,
Yep.
and then that other girl comes in, to I think I'm getting it right. I could be fucking it up, but like just that because it's like you don't know what's going on. These
No.
people are just sort of like happening upon this house, and they had an encounter with this weird fucker, in this van who cuts his, and he's like, ha, 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 and he's like lighting things on fire. And it's like, what is going on with this guy? Finally, they find this house, and they're just, this guy like goes into this house, and there's this steel door, and you're like, what is this thing? And it just goes zhunk, and opens up, and there's this like just monstrosity with this insane looking, skin mask,
Yeah.
you
This
know,
is my
of,
representation of skin.
you're becoming what you fear.
Yes. This is my skin mask. It's part of the gummy bear package I sent you, but
Okay. That's good. Okay, so now Heidi has the saw cheeks. She's got the Buffalo Bill earring, and then kind of almost in a Wonder Woman fashion, the skin of the uh, Haribo gummy bears package across her forehead. So I will say that actually looks kind of badass.
okay, thank you.
But yeah, it looks a little bit like Diana Prince. Um,
That is true,
the
but it's
crown,
supposed to
or
be Leatherface.
but that's fine. That's fine. You know what? You're trying, and that's all
Yeah.
we can ask. So,
Someone's gonna
um,
be some super fan of Where We Were When is going to be this for Halloween. They're gonna be Jigsaw, um, Buffalo Bill, my interpretation,
they're gonna be the
Leatherface,
top
and then
five.
they don't know. Yeah, they're gonna be top 5. They don't
I
know
don't
though.
want to know what's going to happen. I'm sure I know the some of that are going to be in the top 2 here. So I don't know what you're
Yeah,
going to do for the other ones, but we'll
I
see.
know. Well, I'm making these up on the spot. I don't know what I'm gonna do either, but it's everything around me.
I love it. I love it. A little bit more about Leatherface.
Yeah.
Just that iconic shot of Leatherface. Okay, so 2 things. First
Yeah.
thing, the family and
Mhm.
grandpa, okay?
Yes.
When the girl gets taken into the dinner, right? And grandpa is basically a vampire or something? Like, I'm not
Mhm.
quite sure. Like, I guess that
Yeah.
these people just live on blood, and he's got this, like, face that looks like a mask, but he's so goddamn old that he's, like, just
Yeah.
white and ashen, and I guess they cut her finger and they put it in grandpa's mouth, and he just starts sucking it.
Ugh.
Um, truly terrifying and horrifying.
Yes.
But then one of the most terrifying slash beautiful, uh, visuals, I think, of any horror film that I've seen, where it's in Texas too. So this is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where Leatherface just feels so goddamn free to chase this girl out, and you know, and there's a pickup truck right there, and she just jumps in, and they take off, right? And Leatherface almost gets her, but he doesn't. And instead of being like, "Oh shit, I'm on the highway," right? He just takes his chainsaw and just starts swinging it,
Yeah.
just like he's in ecstasy, like he's just like almost like dancing a little bit, he's
Yeah.
just dancing with his chainsaw, right, against the sunset. And it's so iconic and so
Yeah.
weird and so just like doesn't give a fuck,
Mhm.
type of like don't mess with Texas, type of
Yes.
vibe. Um I
Andrew
just, it's what
Dismukes. Shout out to
Dismukes.
Dismukes.
Yeah, shout out to Dismukes. I just feel like that was, Toby Hooper. It Night of the Living Dead. I would say that like that really Leatherface was a precursor to Buffalo Bill. Absolutely,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Now now Ed Gein, the real life, sort of like inspiration for Psycho, and they say for Leatherface and some of these other and Buffalo Bill. Ed Gein actually did create lamps and stuff out of like I don't know if it was human skin or not. I know it was skin. Um, but it probably was human skin because he had like a thing with his mom. But um, but yeah, I really feel like, Leatherface was sort of like the first version of Ed Gein,
Yeah.
in cinema. And it was
Yeah.
so terrifying. It was very,
So
very disconcerting.
so disconcerting. I mean, for being a lifelong horror fan and for definitely like fitting them in when I was a kid and like legitimately scared, Texas Chainsaw Massacre was one that took me a long time to see because there's just too many elements that feel like they could happen and also that are just like I don't know if it's just too scary. It just hits all the scaries. Yeah, it took me into my adult life to finally watch it.
Wow.
But
Wow.
Leatherface I've always had that image of Leatherface with the chainsaw throughout my whole life. So,
He's on the poster. I mean,
yeah.
he's on the poster. So it's just this like big hulking, with this
Yeah.
bib, this butcher's bib, and this kind of crazy, like gnarled, hair and this like really crude mask too. That's the other thing too.
Yeah.
It's really crude, like
It's
it
crude.
almost has like red lipstick on like the mouth, so it
Yeah.
looks like lips.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a classic. Leatherface is
Yeah.
a classic.
Now, speaking of crude and rude, My number
Ooh.
2 for
I know.
scariest.
I got it already.
You know number 2 and number 1.
Well, I know number one. I gotta know
Okay.
number one. I mean, like,
Okay.
I know you too well, right?
So
For
crude and rude.
Freddy Krueger.
Freddy Krueger. Freddy
Yeah.
Krueger. Yes.
Freddy
Freddy
Krueger.
Krueger. Okay. I have a couple things to say about Freddy. I remember when we were little, you had to have been watching it at Mammo's. You were watching Nightmare
You
on
want to talk
Elm
about this first?
Wait, what
The
do you
movie?
mean?
Okay. Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
Well,
We were at
I
Mammo's,
just
Nightmare on Elm Street.
my main point though is I probably saw my first image of Freddy Krueger just because Justin was watching it. And it was either you were watching the movie or you were like the trailer or the preview came on TV or something like that. And like Justin was
Yeah,
engaged
probably.
and I probably just walked in a room.
Yeah.
The first time you see Freddy Krueger, that is the scariest thing. Like, I never thought I'd ever see anything scarier than that. Ever. I mean, that was like the burnt face, which at the time I didn't know that he was burned. I just thought that was what was going on. Um, and then the glove. I'm like, he had razor knife hands. Like, I
Yeah.
that was it for me. That was the scariest thing I'd ever seen in my life. Now, what did you think I was going to say? And I'm listening. I'm just looking for what I can add to myself to be Freddy Krueger.
Well, I mean, I don't know why you don't have it on hand because you did one of the most random Weekend Update characters in the history of SNL.
Yeah. Ever.
That was just
Probably.
ever. That was the most random, but it was so amazing because like, and this is what is, we don't talk too much about the show, except for when I give you like those great ideas. But
Yes. Right. In your opinion.
the character's name was
Jesse Ranch.
And immediately like she comes on, she like wheels on, and it's like, wait a second, that's the Freddy Krueger sweater and hat. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And she just starts talking about being like a community organizer,
That's what I was introed as, was like
yeah, well, I know, but that's part of the whole like idea of just like, what, like, and how is she going to take community organizer into Freddy Krueger? And then, just then the glove comes on, like randomly, and she threatens Michael Che's life, and we're out,
Yeah.
and then because I really feel like it really was just to get the juice and have the actor Robert Englund, say bravo,
I know. But
I mean,
Justin,
that's why you did it. That's why you did it, right?
No. The reason I did it is because
because you knew he was going to do that. You knew he was going to
didn't.
do that.
I did not know he was going to do that. No, I didn't.
No, I know you didn't know, right? But having a platform like that, he's going to see it because people are going to tag him in it, right? And it's like, holy shit, Robert Englund, da 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 da. In any event, I'm being kind of funny about that. I know you don't do it for those reasons, but I'm just saying like that was going to happen anyway.
But I get why you say that, and I do understand that. Yes, you're usually aware, like, oh, this person will probably see it. But Freddy Krueger, it's like it may as well not be an actor. Freddy Krueger, it's like in my head, I'm still thinking like actual Freddy Krueger is not going to see this. Like Freddy Krueger doesn't watch SNL or have friends that watch SNL. It was just like something that was not on my radar at all. I actually, like a couple weeks before that, I saw someone in 30 Rock who had on a sweater that looked very Freddy Krueger-ish to me, which I thought was cool. And so I was about to be like, hey, nice Krueger shirt. And then I was like, oh, maybe that's not a compliment. And then I just started thinking like, oh, what if this person showed up to like a board meeting or just to work, like basically dressed as Freddy Krueger, just totally unaware and is getting called out. And I just randomly pitched it to Celeste Yim, who's a writer on the show. And they were like, I think you could do that for Update. And then, so anyhow, it was very fun. And but to get the cherry on top of the sundae at the end and be recognized by
Yeah.
actual Freddy was just the coolest thing ever.
Yeah,
And
I assume that's a one and done too. It's going to be really hard to bring back Jesse Ranch.
you're right, but you never know.
You have some ideas?
You
You have
never
some
know.
ideas?
I don't have anything to pull out for Freddy Krueger, so I'm going to do
The Mask. She's holding up a figurine of the Mask, which has the same energy.
yeah,
The Mask has the same
hat,
energy.
The hat.
The hat.
The like Freddy
Talking to the
smile.
microphone though.
Sorry, he's got the hat.
Just extend your arm to the camera instead of your face. There you
call.
go.
Good call.
That actually looks really cool when you do that. It looks really neat on camera. Yeah, that has a good perspective thing.
Great.
Yeah, smoking. Because wisecrack. That's the other thing too. Freddy, I think, in my mind, was the first funny villain
For sure.
that I can think of.
Yeah.
I can't really think of. I mean, like, I think Dracula cracked some jokes, some just very dry jokes throughout the years. But Freddy was full on comedy. I mean, he was killing people. That was his shtick. He was killing people in ways that were, where he could make a quip, right?
Yeah.
And because that was that, and that turned into like a thing. By the way, I think it was Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Freddy's Revenge.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that?
It's insane.
It's bonkers. And there is a
Bonkers.
documentary about, I think, like the kid in that, because it was just dripping with like, alternative sexuality. Like it was just like a complete like, what is going on here, right? Type of movie. And that there's a documentary about the making of that and just how fucking crazy that movie is, because it was such like the first one was just really a perfect horror film. It was great, right? It was about teenage sexuality. And then the second one just like veered off, and like this kid is going into S&M clubs,
Mm-hmm.
and this gym teacher, it's a wild movie. If you haven't seen it, I mean, definitely check it out.
Check out Freddy's Revenge.
Yep.
Okay, are you ready for my number one horror villain?
Number one.
How, I know who you.
I know who it is. I know who it is.
Well, okay, so I will just say that
most people know who it is.
Yes. So Freddy was, to me, the scariest thing I'd ever seen. And again, I feel like somehow it was introed to me by Justin. Either I walked in on him watching it, or he was watching the preview, or the preview was on TV. But absolutely, I remember being supposed to be asleep on Mamo and Bampo's living room floor, on the carpet, and I opened my eyes to Pinhead.
I am pain.
Because you were watching Hellraiser.
Which I should not have been watching.
No.
Any like horror film that is written by Clive Barker should not be consumed by children.
No.
It's or tweens. Like I think I must have been 12 or 13.
Yeah,
right?
you were too little too, and so I was certainly too little. And I'm sorry, like there's hundreds of pins in his skull, and like he also lives in a world of like chains and like and
He lives in
torture
hell.
Hooks.
He's in hell.
He's in
Yeah.
hell. He's in hell. Hook's hell. And that is to this day the scariest man villain I've ever seen. What do you
He,
think? Do you think there's a scarier one?
do
And the
I think that there's
voice.
a scarier villain? Well, yeah, because it's almost like an echo voice, right? And
Yeah.
it's so calm and confident, and um, you know, I want to, the thing about Hellraiser is that it borrows from that sort of like Lovecraftian mythos where it's just
Mhm.
this like these beings that sort of like have always existed and
Yeah.
always will. Um,
They don't
and I
go
know that,
away.
like, Pinhead's origin story was a little bit I mean, like, obviously, like, but it's like, there was somebody before Pinhead, and like it's just the
Yeah.
puzzle box is like eternal, right?
Yeah.
It's this eternal thing, and it changes people into Cenobites, right? And Pinhead just happens to be like the leader of the Cenobites. Um, but I really think, like, that was the thing, it's like Clive Barker, right? Clive Barker was basically able to take that and sort of fuse it with S&M, or I think it's SM. I think that's actually how you refer to it, SM. Um, and at the time, obviously, like, LGBT, the gay community, just, that was seen as a really scary type of thing, right? And fuse all that into this like really lurid movie with Hellraiser, because I don't know if you remember, but there was like a lot of sex in that. And there was a lot of like, you
Mm.
know, the brother or the uncle who comes home, who had like, discovered
Yeah.
the box, at one point he's, the whole point is that this woman's bringing people back to the house
Yeah.
so that they can sort of so this guy can sort of like consume him, or like they kill him, and the blood sort of like brings him back, and he starts to reform because the
Yeah.
Cenobites have torn him apart. And at one point he's just like he's reformed enough to have a body, but he doesn't have any skin.
He's like
And they
muscle.
just yeah, they just start
Blood and
going at
muscle.
it.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's just like, wow. I mean, you know, it's definitely I know Clive Barker probably had some effect on the on the sort of lurid sexuality, like SM type of in the early 80s. I'm sure people sort maybe probably got a little bit more into that because of those movies.
Oh yeah, you
Um
read his books of blood, and it's like in every which the stories are incredible, but in every single story, like, I mean, there could be like a man stuck in concrete. I think there is at one point, but like,
mhm.
but there's also then going to be a description of his boner while he's stuck in concrete. Like, it's the scariest situations, and then popping a boner in that situation is the books of blood. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I know Zeb is a big fan of Books of Blood. He's mentioned it a lot of times before, but and I have yet to read it. I have yet to read it.
They're
But
fantastic.
they're they're fantastic. Yeah, of course they are. And Clive Barker, he was one of those guys. I believe that Clive is still around.
Mhm.
Um, Clive Barker was one of those guys too that it looked like it for the longest time that he had done a deal with the devil, because was like, Clive Barker's 60, and it showed like a current picture of him, and he looked like he was like 40, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He always felt like he was this ageless guy. And yeah,
Yeah.
he's still around, and I think that he's still writing. But yeah, I mean, Pinhead, absolutely. I agree. He is the type of villain that you just would never see coming.
Never. Yeah. That's
You'd
what
never
yeah.
think that,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Like,
it's constructed, you know?
yes. And it's crazy to say this because I 10 minutes ago said, like, you would never see Leatherface coming, but Pinhead is so out of left field that it makes Leatherface kind of seem like, well, I could see that coming, but Pinhead, I could not see that coming. Like,
Well, here's why. Here's why. Right. Why. You look at Leatherface and you're like, okay, bad education, incest,
Mm-hmm.
gets into killing things,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't like how he looks. His family calls him, calls him ugly. He wants to cover it up. Da da da. Da. Again, there's an Ed Gein type of thing, right?
Yeah.
Point it. But you see Pinhead and you're like, that is a completely different rule book that doesn't exist in this world.
It ain't even
You
an
know?
alien. It ain't an
Yeah.
alien. It wasn't what we
Well,
were
see, that's
used
the thing.
to.
It's like
Like,
that's the thing. I feel like it is. It's like it is this like it is this. Yeah, it is what hell considers to be beautiful.
yeah.
Really,
Yeah. And it is
because
beautiful. Like,
well,
actually,
that it
the
yeah.
character design, it's beautiful. I have my Pinhead thing. 1 second. It
Yeah.
is with an arm
She's walking
reach
off camera.
or like 2
She's gonna
arms
go get
reach.
some Pinhead paraphernalia, and
I have this amazing dress out of all my favorite wait. I have this
oh my
amazing
god,
dress out of all my favorite t-shirts and that I had
okay,
made.
okay,
You can find them on Instagram under Lifer Shop at Lifer Shop. She's so cool. But this is the back of it, and I have all these t-shirts. And where's the Pinhead portion of it? Wait, sorry. Okay, so there's a great picture of Pinhead. Giving it up, giving it closer. But then I've got this fantastic quote. What started in hell will end on earth.
mm.
Come on.
Was that the the tagline for Hellraiser, or was that Hellraiser 2?
It was like either Hellraiser 2 or like Hellraiser Inferno. It was later on.
Okay,
It was a later
because
on
I was gonna say
Hellraiser.
the one, I thought it was 2 that where they got trapped in hell,
Yeah.
or that girl goes to the asylum and then she
Yes.
finds her way into hell. And just the idea of they say Leviathan, is
Mm-hmm.
I guess symbolizes eternal evil, and it's just this pyramid just turns, in the middle of this structure of mazes, right? And hell isn't dark, it's just this structure of mazes, but Leviathan just casts this black light. It's
Yeah.
like the opposite of a lighthouse. It just sort of turns and there's this sort of black l- l- you know, I guess shadow that it's casting, down. And I just, it's that's again, it's one of those Clive Barker things that it's like, yeah, man. I mean, he went there, he went there, he lived it, he pulled it
Yeah.
out, and he shared it with the world. And sometimes there are those people, that live the extremes, and then
Yeah.
they bring that to bear for their art. And I really feel like, Clive Barker created yeah, some of the scariest some of the scariest literary horror, and obviously your scariest movie villain.
Yeah. And I got the honor of with this like kind of horror club, Nostalgic Nebula. I got invited because in the SNL at home, I was wearing a Pinhead shirt in the
Yeah.
credits. I got a little Pinhead heat and I got invited to watch Hellraiser 2 with the cast of Hellraiser 2. So I got to meet Pinhead and the rest of the Cenobites, and they
Oh,
were lovely. They were so nice to
delightful.
me. And I remember being like, I don't like that you guys are nice. This is weird. Um, yeah, treat me bad. But they were fantastic, and I even got to like meet the composer. It was a very cool experience. Very cool to
Oh,
hear them um be with each other again. I was very honored to be there. So yeah, Pinhead, that's my top
phenomenal.
5 movie villains.
I love it. I love it.
I
Well,
feel like
I feel that that's all that we need.
right.
That's I mean that,
Yeah.
you know, that's top 5, everybody just top 10, but really you got a lot of, like we would have had some, maybe also rans. Chucky might have showed up, Chucky, come on.
Yeah.
Um, but the top 5, those are the baddies, right?
Top
So good
5.
list.
Thank
Good
you very
list.
much. Now
Yeah.
let's jet out of here. Before we do, we got to do our That's So Raven.
That's So Raven.
That's So Raven.
Heidi, what is That So Raven for you this week?
So
It's a
my
it's Oc it's not October yet. We're filming this a little bit before October just to make sure that everybody, kinda understands where we're at right now.
yes. But mine is a little spooky. I recently reordered some books that I used to read when I was a kid, around 12 years old.
Ooh.
Some people might think she's going to say Goosebumps, she's going to say Fear Street, she's going to say R.L. Stine. No, there was another horror author at the time, Christopher Pike. Do you ever heard of him, Justin?
This sounds really familiar.
He was a young adult horror novelist, and he was like, R.L. Stine was great, but like
Mhm.
Christopher Pike, like, I don't know, there was a little more like there was a little bit of sex in his books, but it was just a little scarier too. My friend Michelle and I read
Mhm.
a lot of them. And I just for kicks, I ordered two of my favorite books of his, which were The Midnight Club and The Last Vampire. They have great book covers. I mean, they make good displays too because they're like the horror version of a romance novel book cover. So it's like a cool painted, just like fun image of like teenagers getting killed, basically. But um, but that's a Raven. It's still kind of a throwback, but I treated myself to something I loved back then, which were Christopher Pike books. So just even go online and just like look at the covers. The covers are cool. And so are the titles.
I love it. I
So
love
that's
it.
mine. Justin, what's your That's So Raven?
Mine is actually a movie pick.
Oh
And it's a scary movie.
my God. I'm gonna be
Um,
mad at you if because I was gonna do that.
I don't think you're gonna pick this movie.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, I don't think but I mean, I would you're gonna get a twofer then if it's the same thing. So, I don't know
Yeah.
what you be crying about. Um, so, this movie came out last year and really kind of, just it came out like last October and it really just kind of like, flew under the radar. And there's been a couple articles about it. And I might have mentioned it previously. I forget if I did, but The Empty Man.
Mm.
Have I
Okay,
talked about
no.
The Empty Man?
No.
Okay. The Empty Man is a completely brand new horror mythology. I'm not going to go too much into it because it's hard to even describe, but it definitely has that, it's just a whisper of Lovecraft. It feels like it has a little Clive Barker in there. It feels like it has a little Eastern mysticism. Um, And the story in the movie is just so crazy because the first like 20 minutes is a completely different story. It's just like this, like you meet these people and then you pretty much never see them again for the rest of the film. And it just keeps getting crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier. And I read an article about it because I had seen it. It was one of those movies that came out last year, like during October, which I mean, no movies were coming out at that time. Um, and it got a little lost. And I think it's just because the studio was like, fuck it, just release it. Um, but it is just this like, it's exactly what the filmmaker wanted. And like I
Awesome.
said, I'm not gonna talk too much more about it, but it's one of those movies that is pretty genuinely spooky.
Okay.
And it's incredibly original. Um, And that's so Raven for me this week, because it's a scary time, you know? It's
Yeah.
time to see some scary movies.
The Empty Man. Let's all watch it. I know I'm
Let's
going
watch
to.
let's watch that Empty Man. And but you know what isn't empty
What?
is the last 3 minutes of the show, because we've got a new segment that you know, as is the case sometimes with um you know, the dynamics of you know, this relationship between the two of us. You kind of have veto power over everything that I say, you know. But I want to bring back Justin's corner. Um, you know, I think that
Okay.
it's, you know, listen, the we need to have these we need to have these discussions. And I'm just trying to start discussions. I'm just trying to
At
start
the end of an
discussions. And
already like hour and 10-minute podcast. I mean, we said it was going to be 45 minutes tonight. We've already gone over, and now you
absolutely,
want to start.
absolutely.
Okay.
It's important because, you know, I don't know. I mean, I want to talk about two people that the media portrayed as villains, Bill Cosby and Louis C.K.
No, we're
Now,
not. No. And thank you guys so much for listening to Where We Were When on our first Halloween episode. We hope you had a spectacular time. What Justin just said was very spooky. So thank you for ending it on a scary note,
but I
Justin. I know that's why you did it, because those are scary men. So thank you. And we hope that you'll be back next time. Bye.
I
And the ride you're in for is going to be another scary one. We are still in October, everyone, and it is time to be freaky and spooky. We're excited tonight. We're going to talk some more about scary movies, but we're going to do it in a little bit of a different way. I'm excited to tell you guys about it, but we